So this is the agenda for today's webinar. We'll start with some news. There's a few quick reminders. The main thing is talking about the release improvements that we're doing this month. There is a demo of some of those improvements, questions and answers, and then a discussion about the next priorities. So there we go. So this is part of the reminders. First reminder is that with Joanne Gainen, who's our national coordinator, we're hosting, participating in a Village to Village Network webinar next week, next Wednesday on the 22nd. So we have two types of webinars. This one goes pretty quick for advanced users where we're announcing the new features. Next week is more about Q&A. So question and answer is easier for villages that just joined Helpful Village. So if you find it's a little fast today, don't worry. Next week there is an easier one. You can submit your improvement requests on ask.helpfulvillage.com, but I'll be talking more about that later. And that's the email address for our support system where you can find Kian answering your questions and a link to the training docs on Google Drive. This presentation that I'm doing today will be made available, so those links are there if you need them. Now we keep going with the news. So we have two new villages joining Helpful Village, Village Network of Petaluma in California and the Old Brooklyn Village in Cleveland, Ohio. So we wanted to welcome them to the Helpful Village family. And if they're on the call, then a shout out to them. So that's good news. I have other news about coronavirus, obviously not about the disease itself, and it's a horrible disease, but I wanted to share with you that we have been hearing from villages, also some good news related to that. And I wanted to share that with you. One of them is that while some villages have seen a rapid increase in number of members that were, confined in their homes, and obviously understand that having some support from a village in their homes is important. Also, some villages having a rapid increase in number of volunteers. We have seen media attention for villages. So if your village has had an article in your local newspaper, well, that's great. If not, maybe you should try contacting your local newspaper and letting people know, well, what the village is doing to help members during this confinement. So I think now it's easier to understand. Actually, for myself, I received a phone call from a journalist in Los Angeles that he went online, he was researching solutions for stuff, and then called me, and then we got an article like that. I didn't even go for it. So media is hungry for kind of how we're helping older adults. So maybe reach out to them, and that can help your outreach efforts for your village. Last thing about this is we also heard from a village that received actually 2 grants that were coronavirus specific. So grantors and funders are also interested in giving money to organizations like villages that are helping seniors during the coronavirus crisis. So maybe in your village or in your area, you may want to look for grants or donations. It's something that we have seen happening. So if your village hasn't touched that area, maybe you want to do that. These are 2 links for the training documents and training videos. This is some information about the training documents that have been added this last month. So you have here a list. We had questions about how to add documents to editable pages. So Kian created a training document explaining how to do that through the documents library. We added a new training document about how to create membership for individuals and household memberships. Actually, I will be showing a demo today of new improvements we did for associated members. And then that's the new training doc for the new way to do things. Published a training doc about moderation of village doc, a new training doc for village maps for check-ins. Well, you can see the list essentially for the new check-in functionalities we released last month. There is a couple of training docs there. This we discussed already. Next week, there is a V2V webinar that we're doing with them. In the meantime, the next week is, so this week we're presenting the new things. Next week is more question and answer. So if you can send us your questions ahead of time that you would like to have discussed. I remember for last month, News Neighbors in North Carolina, wanted to discuss the village talks, so they sent us the questions ahead of time. So during the webinar, we could answer those questions. So if you have questions, something you want to have discussed next week, you can send that to us through that email address. Okay, now this is a different thing. So this slide is about things that have been happening in 2020, right? Many people on this call are frequent Helpful Village users, some of them advanced, etc. And I wanted to say that besides the coronavirus crisis, even only on Helpful Village, we have been very busy on 2020, and we have launched very large new modules, right? So we launched in January the user profile that was quite important. February, we did Village Talk, which is how to engage on new conversations. Then in March, we did the emergency tools with check-ins and maps. So we've been launching a lot of new features, which is great in a way, but at the same time, we understand that when you're a village coordinator, well, then you have all these new tools emerging every month. It's going to be challenging. And I wanted to let you know that we're changing gears. So it was important at the beginning of the year to launch kind of these new big modules. But now we're going to calm down a little bit to give you some air. And now, but really, because those were essential tools that were needed and are now ready. So now, the next few months, instead of launching big modules, that will come down a little bit, and we will be refining modules. So we will be now, doing improving little things or being more careful with your improvement requests, etc. Now that we're done with this big launching, so I just wanted to reassure some of the villages that we're trying to keep up with the new features available. Just letting you know that yeah, it will be easier. We're gonna work on fine tuning those, and we're not planning to launch any other large modules soon. So this is supposed to be a good news for you. This being said, we move on to the release notes. So this is really what has changed is in April. So on this month, what we have been working on this last month, and these are different improvements to the platform that will be on the server this weekend. So I'll be showing you the demo today on our demo site, but it will be available on your village website this weekend. Okay, first thing is we have done some improvements to the Contact Us page. This is a request from Clayton Valley Village in California. The contact form that we had before was asking for the name and an email address, but they submitted this request where basically people can also use the contact form, but if they don't use an email address, that they could leave their phone number. So that has been added. And the other thing that has been added, and this is an idea from Marine Villages, also in California, is that not only you can list your social media with Facebook and Twitter, but if your village has an Instagram account, you can also add it on Helpful Village. If you don't have one, you can leave it blank and it will not show. So it's not a problem if you don't have one. But if you have one, we're helping you, list it on the contact form for your village.
Manuel, excuse me, this is Margie. I have a question specifically about the contact page. Can I ask it now?
Yes.
I wait.
Yes. No, you can ask it now.
Okay, so we customized the Contact Us page, but it's not an editable page. So when you put out a new release, of course, it clobbered our changes. Not a surprise, but yes, the changes disappeared when you did one of the updates. So because it's not an editable page, is there any way to make the Contact Us page editable so that it won't go away?
Yeah, no, it should not have gone away. So I'm surprised, but I don't know. Maybe I did something wrong there. But basically, the contact page, if you go here, admin, contact page.
Right, you could edit it with admin rights. Right, I did that.
Yeah, you've done this before.
Well, we've done this before, and sometime in the last 3 months, all of our changes went away.
Yeah, it should not have happened. I don't see why that was possible. So, I mean,
Oh, okay.
There may
okay, well, it did, and I did, and I submitted something to support, and they just said, we'll have to reconstruct it. You can't get it back.
Yeah, it's really, we have, it's another good question, but it's a separate question. So we have backups, right, of the database. We could go back and try find it. Now it's also a lot of work digging in, so so it depends.
Not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's just a few lines, that it's easier for you to rewrite it, we will keep an eye on it, and just make sure that we don't lose it when we deploy again. So if you can do it before this weekend, I'll check before
I'll try.
after, and I'll make sure that it's not lost. So because it should not have never disappeared. But
I will try.
Absolutely. And then as I was saying, sorry for that. And the second thing is, I also wanted to explain something about these backups. Is that these backups are, as you know, our infrastructure is with Amazon Web Services, and so there's an automatic backup of the database. We can, if something happened, if you deleted something important, we can always dig, but obviously it takes us some time to, reactivate database, copy stuff. So, but if it's really important and you lost someone, don't hesitate to let us know. If it's really needed, we can go back to the backup storage. Thank you, Martin. Well, let's keep on going with the improvements we did this month. We have added some configuration changes. So as you know, if you go to menu admin settings, there's different adjustments or settings you can do for your village, or the admin can do for their village. One of the adjustments we did here is that we added a checkbox that allows you to send the evaluation emails to volunteers. So before, it was something that we had to set up at Helpful Village. You were asking us to activate or deactivate. Now you will be able to activate or deactivate yourself. It's, we should have done this before. We were already doing that for members, but the evaluation email to volunteers we were not doing, and it will now be available. So that's an easy one. Okay, this is another one that is a little bit different, but it's also in the configurations and settings. Is that, as you know, the website has a Donate Now button that is at the very top of your website. I can show it on my, on the browser. If you go here, the Donate Now button here. So the new improvement that we did this month is that you can now go on settings and choose which is the default fundraising campaign that you want that link to go to, right? So before it was always going to the general fund. So you would click on Donate Now and would go to your general fund fundraising campaign. But you can also create, for let's say, a coronavirus specific fundraising campaign, right? With a a specific message, specific image, or specific purpose of that fundraising campaign. And if you can go to settings now in the miscellaneous areas, you will be able to say which is the default campaign that you want to use. So maybe change it from general fund to coronavirus fundraising fund. This is another good one that we did also, is the last one that we have in configurations, is that we have added a possibility to add the online meeting URL. So if your village has signed up with Zoom or Skype or Hangouts or any other online conference software, you will be able to save that in the configurations of your village under events. And I'll tell you more about this because we do something interesting in the events page about this. But here is where you can set up your online meeting URL. By the way, that's a fake meeting URL that I wrote there. The meeting URL is something that should not be public, because if you make it available or public on your website or your messages out, well, then this is how other hackers or other people getting onto the meeting, and you don't want that to happen. So here we keep it private. I'll come back to this default online meeting link a little later on when we come to a new feature we added for events. Okay, this is other improvements we did for this month. And before I explain this slide, I want to let you know that the chat, I know there's a chat function. I'm not reading it right now because I'm talking. So sometimes there is a good chat conversation with our team. I know Kian is on the call for our support, and also between villages. So you can definitely use the chat, but I just want you to know that I cannot read it at the same time that I'm talking. If it's something really interesting, please unmute yourselves and just interrupt the presentation. We'll discuss. If it's something that can be happening on the chat without me knowing, then you can keep it on the chat also. Anyways, let's keep on going with this slide. Other improvements we did is that we did a new improvement for the on Stripe, or related to Stripe. Stripe is the payment gateway that we use, right? And through Stripe, we can allow monthly membership payments. You can set a member that is paying monthly, and basically every month in collaboration with Stripe, the money is collected from this from the member's credit card and paying member monthly. The change that we did this month is that the way it's recorded on Stripe, now we are adding the member name. So for example, before on the Stripe reports that you can produce, it was saying something like, well, invoice something random number. And now it would say, well, monthly payment for Manuel Acevedo, or monthly payment for Eldar Rodriguez, or something that is easier for your accountant. This is a request that we received from an accountant of One Village saying, well, it will be easier if we have the member name on the monthly payment. So that's one. The other one that is, I'm sure, is going to be very popular is the asynchronous reporting, right? So let me explain a little bit about asynchronous for those that don't know that barbaric word. What it means is that reports is something that can take a lot of time. Sometimes you can have a small report that doesn't take much time or resources, or you can have a very large report if you're exporting a lot of records from the database. So if you're exporting a lot of records from the database in the middle of the day, well, that takes a lot of resources from the server, so the server will be slow, etc. So we need to be careful. And what we did is that what we used to do is basically having this asynchronous report, which is saying, well, you're asking for it now, but we will calculate it when the appropriate time to do it. Before, we had a checkbox saying, well, if you want this report now or you want it later, so inviting people to click for asynchronous, but we're not asking people to mention if they want asynchronous or not asynchronous, because that's kind of a barbaric word. We're calculating that automatically. And what we do is basically that if the report is small, well, we give it to you right away. And then if it's a larger report, we have this new thing that I'm mentioning below. For example, if you do an all people report, that's kind of something that you don't need for your operational needs right away, and that will be produced overnight so that we don't have an impact on the server performances or response time. But active members and service requests, those are reports that we were also doing during the night because to save these resources, but now they will be produced earlier. So they will be produced during the day. So they will come earlier to you. They don't come immediately in the next second if you have a lot of members or if you're asking for a lot of service requests, but they will be calculated during the day. At the same time, I want to ask you, well, to be reasonable, right? We want you to have these reports quickly, right? If you're asking for service requests for the month, we think that's a reasonable report, and then we want to have you to have that right away. But we have also seen sometimes some villages that were doing reports that didn't seem very reasonable to us. For example, let me give you an example. Service requests, if you ask the service requests for the last 12 months and you're asking that every month, well, then you're producing a report that is unnecessary. You can have the very same report. You can calculate their service request for the last 2 months, and then just copy paste from the spreadsheet you have from the previous month. You see what I'm saying is that if we have people asking for crazy reports, data that is recalculated every time, or if you're asking, for example, the all people report every day, well, then it's penalizing everybody, and then we will have to move those to the night. So it's a balance between, well, please use the reports in a reasonable way. And then if you do that, we are happy to give them to you, as soon as that's possible, and keeping the service running. So I hope this is clear. If you're a small village, it has no impact because those reports are always given to you immediately. If you're a very large report, we're giving you active members and service requests reports faster than last month. So that's also good news.
Manuel, this is Mary. May I ask a question about that?
Yes.
So what's considered a large report? I mean, what is large?
Yes. So, for example, all reports that are smaller than 100 records, right, 100 rows for, a spreadsheet file. Well, that for us, we give that to you immediately. So that for us is a small report. Now, it depends, right? For example, if you are a village with 500 members, well, and you have your report of active members, well, then we understand we want to give you that to you as soon as possible also, right? Well, it's larger than 100, but it's all your members, you need that very, very soon. if you're asking for all people and you have 5,000 people in your database, well, that's a very, very large report. So there is not a very, clear definition. But in any case, what we want you to know is that we want to give you the reports that are necessary for your operations, kind of all the service requests of the month. We want to give you that very quickly. All the active members, we want to give that very quickly. If you're asking for all people every day, well, that will take a little more time because you don't, it's redundant information that you're asking us to give you.
So yesterday, just for clarification, yesterday morning, someone in our village asked for an active members report yesterday morning around 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It came through sometime around
1 a.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that the way it's going to be from now on?
No. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the question. So this is better. This is what we were doing last month. We had moved some of these reports to overnight, including active member and service requests. And now we're making those happen faster. So all people will happen overnight. Now, active members, we heard actually from feedback from villages like yours, right? Saying, well, active members, we would need that report faster. And I said, well, yeah, you're right. That's reasonable. That should not happen overnight. So that one is what I tried to write there, like saying it will come in earlier. So that will not in the next second, but it will take, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour or something.
Okay, that's reasonable. Very good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So active members and service requests were happening overnight last month. They will come during the day right now. So it's better. They'll be produced faster.
Perfect. Well, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Manuel?
Thank you for the question. Yes, Jim.
I have a different suggestion.
Yeah.
Most of the time when we need an active member or an active volunteer report, all we need is the contact information.
Yes.
We don't need the tags. We don't need any of that other stuff, which means a lot of columns could be lopped off and provide us with the data that we needed shorter. Okay. I'm just wondering if you might put in your thinking cap as to how we might do that.
Yes, let me take note of that.
Yeah, I agree with that comment. It's really frustrating to me to go to a report for a specific purpose, what it's called, and then you get a whole lot of data that you've got to hide or sort or delete in order to get it down to what you're actually looking for.
Yeah,
I think that would be great.
Most of the reports I need give me, you got them listed as a particular type, but you've just got a lot of extra data that we would rather not to see.
Okay, yeah, I took note. It's a good point. Thank you, Carol.
The problem with that, this is Lisa from Coastal Neighbors. The problem with that is we run these reports for different reasons at different times. And it really is simpler for us to edit the report than for you to make all kinds of iterations for what it might include.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Manuel, this is Margie from DC. If the member directory had all the phone numbers and maybe the address, which it does not now, it just has email and one phone number, maybe that would solve the issue that was just brought up about just needing very basic stuff. Yeah. But the member directory, we would like to have a little bit more information in it.
Okay, let me jump in. So several things. That's a great point. So Lisa, I agree with you. Sometimes you need more data. So I took note. I'm not saying that I'll remove those columns from the report. Just gonna think if I find a way to, have more or less columns depending on what you need at each time. So if we can have one report with less columns and that produces quicker. We're not gonna remove the data from the report. It's just find a way if there is a way to, select some of the columns that you would need for a given report. But I need to give it some thought. I think, Jim's idea of, understanding that having a lot of rows with a lot of columns takes a lot of resources, and sometimes removing those columns will make things better for the server. It's a good point. So I'll try to give it a thought and come back to you and come back to the group.
Can you add a thought of just selecting which columns you want?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, that would really be helpful.
That's kind of my thought now. Obviously, obviously we need to see. I mean, obviously there is some complexity about, well, choosing the columns for which report, etc. I mean, that's the whole, that's where I was, that is where I wanted to go with the idea, but
Good.
I don't have the solution is where I'll go explore. Now, Margie.
Yeah, I mean, well, we could query what we wanted. If there was an option, we could make our own query and get that information out. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, you know, what we always do is that we try always to go step by step in terms of, you know, obviously before giving any query or thing, it's easier to have kind of a selection of columns. So if we can get that done, maybe we can, you know, keep going and doing one step at a time. But yeah, thank you for the comment. Now, I still want to come back to Margie's question about the directory. Because Margie, I wanted you to know that if you come back to your settings area, which is here, right, admin settings, you have the possibility to choose these settings. If you want to include the member's email in your directory, you can. If you want to add the postal address in your directory, you also can. Right, so I thought you were telling me that in your case it was missing. Probably it's because you just need to check this box and you will have that information in your member directory file.
Right. What you don't have are multiple phone numbers. You're correct, and we didn't have that checked.
Okay.
You're right. I didn't realize that, but we don't have main phone number and cell number, which, you know.
Yeah.
And any way to designate what the preferred preferred phone number is. I mean, this has just gotten to be a nasty bit of detail for many people.
Okay.
They don't answer their home phones anymore, or they don't answer their cell phones.
Yeah. I think, you know, if you go to the general person here, well, let me give this is manual. If I go to my profile, here on the general tab, you can choose. Well, actually, yeah, it's a combination of this. I know this checkbox here, cell phone is primary, will change the phone on the directory for each person, right? So for me, if I want to be contacted on my cell phone rather than my landline, if I check this box, this is the number that will show on the member directory. But anyway, let me go back to the presentation. But definitely, Margie, if you need more, I mean, we can answer that question offline at a later time. But
yes, thank you.
Okay, we need to keep going because we still have many improvements to cover. Some of them very exciting. So let's move on, and then if you have questions, we have a Q&A also at later on. Thank you for the questions, really, because it helped me clarify what I meant with this asynchronous report. Okay, big improvement also this week is Google Analytics. So it is now possible to connect your village with Google Analytics. Now, what is Google Analytics? Google Analytics is a free tool from Google that allows you to understand what is the traffic on your website for your village, right? So I have it here. I can show you how it looks like. Basically, you need to create an account for your village, and basically it will show you a ton of different things if you're into data and understanding your village. So you can look at you see that there are 2 active users. One of them is me, right? And then the other one is that you can look at your audience and you can see, for example, where kind of a geographical area on which location people are being connected. The other thing you can see is behavior. For example, here, let me show you. It's going to show people start with the homepage, and then the traffic of your website. I mean, there is a ton. I cannot do an introduction of the whole what is analytics, but it's very interesting to understand what are the pages that people are using the most. For example, you see here, you can see our login page has been used 15 times, service request 17 times, configurations have been there quite often. So you can understand what are the pages that are being most used. You can see the evolution of traffic in your page views. You see this week, there was a little use, and then these last few days, been working more on it and stuff like that. So yeah, basically you can have statistics about the traffic of your website with Helpful Village. And now the way to do it is that you can use this link on the top of this page. It's a support page from Google that explains you how to get your tracking ID. So we will need you to send us your tracking ID in private. So I don't know, don't share it with other people, but basically it's explaining how to create a Google Analytics account for your village. And then once you do that, you follow a few steps and you will obtain a number that looks like this, UA dash something, whatever number that will be different. And then that's what you need to email to us, asking us to activate Google Analytics for your village. Okay, is that clear for everybody? If it's not the case, a good moment to unmute yourself and ask your question.
This is awesome, Manuel.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Perfect. I'm glad you like it. I know it has been a request from different villages across the nation. Google is great, and we love really working with them. But also they had a ton of tools for the analytics. There's tags, there's tracking ID, 20 different solutions, and then it took us some time and effort to understand. But now I think we have a good solution. Okay, let's move on. Next thing, we have the check-in module, right? For those that are using it, we have added some improvements there. One of them was super interesting. It was super simple because I never thought of this. Is that what happens when you have a volunteer that is calling a member, asking them how they're feeling? Usually, in my view, they can, they would say, well, I'm feeling very good, or okay, not great. But we were missing one status, which is unable to reach or try to contact. Like what happens when a volunteer tried to call the member was not answering the phone. Well, you still want to know that the buddy system or the volunteer actually did the job. They tried to call, so they can now, the volunteer can say that this happened. On the print screen is called try to contact, but I think I changed the wording to unable to reach, which I thought maybe was a little bit prettier. But yeah, anyways, in any case, it will show on the check-in dashboard. When you're doing the check-in dashboard, it says awesome, great, etc. And when you see for the last 2 weeks, it's showing numbers 1 to 5, 5 being awesome and 1 being terrible. Try to contact will be displayed as a 0, and it's displayed in gray, which is basically, well, we could not, we don't really have information specifically about how the member is feeling.
Manuel, this is Maria. Where is this located? Oh, you're going to show us.
Well, yeah. So first, check-in is the check-in module is what we presented last month. It's actually a premium feature with the check-in modules so I can send you the link if you could not attend our last webinar, where basically we have a system of village buddies, check-in module with a map and yeah, it kind of looks like this also, right? With check-ins per day, your members, etc. But it's a premium feature. I'll send you an email after our meeting, and also to any other village that is interested in this module, we can send you additional information and pricing information. The pricing for this premium feature is $5 per 100 members, which means that if your village has between 0 and 100 members, well, it just costs $5 per month. If you want to give it a try, just let us know. We will activate. And I think for you, Maria, I think we have not activated yet. So basically, we presented it last month, and villages had to contact us if they wanted it activated. So we can always activate it for you, but just let us know.
Right, I missed last month. Yep.
Okay, no problem.
Manuel.
I didn't want to put you on the spot.
Manuel, this is Carol.
Yeah.
It would be helpful to have a box to check that says left message.
Yeah. Okay, so and that one for you, it would be different than try to contact?
Yeah, left message. To me, that would be no answer. Try to contact would be a no answer and then a left message.
Yeah, okay, interesting point. I know I read a similar feedback from Susan Hamilton in La Morinda. And I was wondering if we would keep it the same. The good thing with try to contact is that we put it at 0. If we add, left a message, it's like, oh God, well, now what number do I put? But essentially, yeah, it's an interesting conversation. If someone else wants to pitch in, and comment on that, I think it's interesting. Maybe we need to add another. Obviously, we don't want to add 25 different, statuses.
Couldn't you? This is Susan Davis from East Rock Creek Village. Couldn't you just put in the comment field what number was called, and whether you left a message, just things like that. I think it's a very complicated situation for so many people.
You're right.
Manuel, I agree with that because that was my sense that you may have had to call an emergency contact or what have you. So you need to leave a message in the comment field.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the tried to contact or unable to reach, whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Joanne, I'd just like to pop in and say in favor, tried to contact is a little bit vague. And maybe tried to contact is kind of vague. What did you do and how many times? It said, but left a message is very clear.
Okay.
So you know that there has been some contact made.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you need to have both of those options or have a lot of comments or whatever, but just my thought.
Yeah. Well, obviously, adding more options is kind of more precise. I agree with you, Joanne, in there, right?
I'm saying not to add more. You don't need
not to add more. So basically what would be your idea? Is kind of, because you said try to contact was a little vague, so you prefer unable to reach, is that it?
No. I prefer just say left a message. When you try to contact, what does that mean?
Well, the thing is that what happens if you didn't leave a message, right? You try to call, the person didn't answer the phone.
But don't they usually, yeah, someone's saying unable to reach is best.
Yeah, so unable to reach, I think what we have, and maybe let me just, before we go in 20 different directions, what I hear basically is maybe we could do unable to reach as a status, so keeping only one. And then if the person left a message, well, they can always write it in the comment section, right? It's like, well, okay, unable to reach, but I left a comment message. So we could capture all the information there with only one status, maybe. And now, back to you. So if anyone else wants to comment on it, I'm listening.
I like unable to reach and leave a message in the comment field.
Okay. We can try with this, like this, and then let me ask you another question that is connected to that. If we say unable to reach, yeah. No, I mean, I just had some sort of thought, like, because we can also, no, it's okay. I have another idea, but it's kind of sometimes, my idea was simply saying, oh, if you say try to contact, would we make the comment section mandatory? But that adds more complexity. So let's just not do it for now. So I think through training, you can tell your volunteers if they left a message just to write it on the comment section and see how that goes. That would be my suggestion. Okay, but thank you for the conversation. That's really interesting. And obviously you have the unable to reach idea is just brilliant. I never crossed my mind. It's like, oh, people answer. Sometimes they don't. Okay, now I have another.
Well, and slightly further, we have actually people who don't have voicemail on their phones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point. Okay, I have another improvement on the check-in side. So this is feedback connected with a request from Taos, New Mexico, from Jim and the team. Is basically, well, how do you know? People did a check-in, a volunteer did a check-in with a member, and then basically, basically, well, that transaction worked well. But then, basically, how does the village know that there is something needed to be done, right, about it? So I'm still thinking about different ideas, but I wanted to explain to you this very simple one that we already did. It's kind of an easier to see if something is needed, is that in this column, well, first of all, this is check-ins per day, right? You have a dashboard where you see the situation for all members for the last 15 days. That is great. It gives you an overview. And then there's check-ins per day feature that allows you to see all the check-ins that happened on the day you choose. So in this case, you go filter by date. I chose 18th of March. And then I applied that filter, and then it shows all the check-ins that were done. And then on a single view, you see for all members that checked in, how they're feeling, the groceries needed, meds, etc., and the comments. So you don't need to go into each individual check-in. You can see them all from one place. Now, the improvement we are adding this month is that last month we had, is groceries needed? And we're writing yes and no, right? But when you were giving a quick overview of this page, well, then, kind of, it shows yes, and then no is also black. So you visually don't see it as much. So we replace the no with a dash. And now visually, you can scroll the list, and then the yes are much more visible now than what they were before. So it's just user interaction improvement that we did this month. There is something else, and this is the last improvement that we have for check-ins this month, is that now we're sending an automatic email. So what happens when people are not feeling good, kind of not great and terrible? Basically, now Helpful Village will automatically send an email to the village volunteer coordinator, services coordinator, that is saying something like this. So, dear village manager, the name of the member is feeling, and then we're saying how the person is feeling, not great or terrible. Who did the check-in? So Kian Bremer, in this case, was the volunteer that did it. And then some of the options, they need food or meds or the comments will also be showing on the email. So before, in last month's version, you had to go to the check-in per day and see what was happening. Now we are notifying you if there is something that needs your attention if the person is not feeling well. Now, so that's for this improvement. I wanted to let you know also that we're very interested in this check-in module. So not necessarily now during the call, but if you had other ideas, please let us know through, by email to support@helpfulvillage.com. For example, something that I'm very interested in is knowing what are the questions that we're asking. Right now, we're asking for groceries, meds, and a callback. But I was wondering if some of your villages would be interested in asking some other questions, right? It's like, I don't know, something like, oh, do you have symptoms of some sort or something? So if some villages have been thinking about questions that are really important during the check-in process, please share that with us and we'll be happy to maybe potentially ask more questions to the check-in process.
Manuel?
Yes.
It's Bonnie from Capital City Village in Austin.
Yes.
When you send this notification email to the services coordinator, are you also copying the admin?
No, not at this point. We could, if you think it's a good idea. Obviously, well, first thing, if your village has a services coordinator, it's going to the services coordinator. If you don't have a services coordinator, it will go to the admin, right? That, you know what I mean is that always on our email notifications, if you have designated someone, it will go to that person first. And if you have not designated, well, actually, yeah, I mean, you know this already, so that's fine.
It would be nice if the admin were copied.
Okay. So I'll take a note. Now, I'm taking note of that. Now, what I want to know is that from other villages on the call, either now or through email, if you think that this should be a setting, right? Like to add the admin or not to this notification, because obviously I understand that, if for other villages, maybe adding the admin could be overwhelming or something. So maybe we add a new setting to say if you want to copy to the admin or not. So anyways, just let us know through email what other villages prefer. But I got that point, Bonnie. I'm writing it down.
Thank you. And the only other thing that we've been adding in and asking all of our people is whether they are feeling comfortable about participating in Zoom meetings, because we're doing a lot of them. We've basically moved all of our programs to Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting question. You know what I was thinking is that maybe we can. Okay, I'm taking note of that. Thank you, Bonnie, for suggesting that.
You're welcome.
So,
Manuel, this is Susan Hamilton at Lumber in the Village.
Yes.
Hi. So thanks for adding that that drop down for that new status with unable to reach. That's wonderful. I appreciate that. But the automatic email. So if someone checks the box for the requesting groceries or medication, is there any automated emails that come from that to generate a service request yet?
Well, it's a great question because I was asking myself the same question. So today, no, the email is not going out, but maybe we should. I mean, it's not a problem. It's obviously, the balance here is knowing is that, when is the right moment to send emails and not sending too many emails if that's bothering, the service coordinator.
Right.
But I like that. So
yeah,
I was wondering the same question. What's your personal feeling? What do you think?
We would love that because now during shelter in place, we're just doing groceries and medication pickups. So that's our service requests that come in, and we're doing these check-in calls, and they're going through that, the status report, and they ask, do you need groceries or medications? And then they check the box.
Yeah.
So it would be wonderful if that was an automated email for service requests.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll do that. So I think you convinced me.
Thank you.
So it will go out now. If it's not great or terrible, so the person is not feeling good, or if they're asking for something. So for meds or groceries. So I just make a note, and I'm putting a star here so I don't forget this. So that will be included in this month's release. It's really easy, just changing the checking a checkbox. So I can do that during this week.
Thank you, Manuel. We need that from Andy.
Perfect. It's coming. It's on its way. Thank you, Andy. Okay, yeah, I have another. We have some good stuff coming also that I need to show. I know the time is running, so I hope we have enough time because we have some good stuff that I want to show you still. First is this one. This is a request that has been in for quite some time, and we finally had a chance to do it. It took us a little time because it's a little hard, but it's fine. So now it's possible to add more than one associated member, right? When in my first view of associated members, I was thinking, well, associated members is husband and wife or partners, right? But then I was hearing from different villages. Cheverly Village, for example, is one in Maryland, I remember, and other villages saying, well, yeah, but sometimes we have husband and wife, and there is the mother, that lives under the same roof. So we're doing a membership that allows for 3 people. And it was a great point. So we finally did it. So you can define for your membership types, you can say what is the maximum number of members. If your village only admits 2 members per membership type, then fine, you can do it, and there will not be more than 2. If your village is happy to allow 3 members or maximum 4 members for these cases like this, kind of when we have 3 people in the household, like the mother or father or any other person, you can allow that, and now you can associate more than 2 people in an associated membership. There is a training doc that was prepared by Kian, and it's available also on our Google Drive that explaining how to do these associations of members. So there's a new way to do it. As you see, there is these subtabs here. So that's quite exciting, and we have more to come. Okay, this one is also exciting. Now I'm speaking faster because the time is running out, and still want to show you some cool stuff. First is the online meeting buttons for events. We added now the possibility, because so many villages, as Bonnie said, for Capital City in Austin, are running Zoom meetings for their events. We added the possibility to make it easier to join the Zoom meetings from Helpful Village. So first thing that you can do is that when you're creating your event, you can add the online meeting to your event, okay? And then what will happen is that then when you go to your Helpful Village page, there will be a button that says join the online meeting now. So you don't need to, send people, the Zoom meeting link that they need to click on. You can tell them, well, just go to Helpful Village, go to the event you want to join, and then there will be a button saying join the online meeting now. When you click on that button, it takes them to Zoom, right? So it's just easier.
How do you deal with passwords?
Exactly. Well, Jim, perfect. Great question. Because that's the other thing that I meant there is the Zoom privacy discussion, right? That I wanted to have. So some of you may have seen on the press that, there was some controversy about Zoom privacy, people that were jumping on different meetings. So definitely you should be careful. They had a balance at Zoom, basically saying, well, it's very easy to join the meeting like you did today. It's not asking for any password or anything, so it was easy to enter. Most of the time that works okay, like we did today. We didn't have any hacker that we know of or disturb the meeting. In some cases, if you're scared of that, you can set up a password, and then that removes the problem. Another thing that I wanted to let you know is that you need to be careful sharing your Zoom meeting link. If you're writing them on your website, like saying, oh, use this Zoom link, well, then you're making that available to hackers that can jump into your meeting. So what we did is that this button here is only visible for people that are logged into Helpful Village. So if your members, actually your volunteers also, anybody on Helpful Village that are logged into Helpful Village will see that button. If they're not logged in, they cannot see it. So again, my recommendation to you is that, well, obviously you can use it on Helpful Village. And the second thing that I wanted to tell you is, well, be careful. Don't share your Zoom meeting link publicly, because that allows other people to come in where they should not be. This is another one. And this is the last one. And then I need to do a quick demo of some of these things. This is another, I love this improvement also. First, this is print screen of one of our customers in Washington, D.C. So it's Cleveland Woodley Park. And they sent us, they did these sectors, right, of their village that they can do with these different areas, so that they can have a local coordinator or groups of, it's kind of local neighborhoods or clusters in their village. And this is something that can be done for your village also. The second improvement we did for maps is the search person. I'm gonna show this. Margie, remember you asked me about what we were doing for people that were living at the same place? Connected to this demo that I'm gonna show in 5 minutes. But before I show the search person on our website, I want to let you know how did we come up with the Cleveland Woodley Park map by sectors. I want to show you how we did that. Basically, it looks like this. So this, Cleveland Woodley Park. So interactively, is the other one was a print screen, but basically here you can zoom, you can display your members and your volunteers on the map, and then this is an interactive map that can be done for your village if you have village maps activated. And the way we got it done is that basically the village sent us you can print. I mean, basically we just need a map where you're drawing your different sectors, right? And then basically what we did is that this is what we received from our village. Then we had to translate that into some different dots right there, right? I mean, you don't need to send the second one. This is what we do, right? And then basically, this takes us some time, so we need to charge by the hour, basically. So if you are doing a complex thing like this, it can take us a little bit more time. If you are asking us for 3 squares or 4 squares, it can be done in 10 minutes, and I don't know, it may end up costing $5 or something like that. So it depends. And we can also, if you send us this, we can give you an estimate of how much time would it take us to, to calculate the map, etc. But yeah, basically, I just wanted to let you know, if you need a map with sectors, some of our villages have already done it, and this is how that works. Now, next thing is now we're going to move to the live demo. Oh my God, there's only 5 minutes left in the meeting. So let me start with the village maps. So this is our demo site. If we go to village maps, here, let me show you a few things. First, this is what we used in the demo last month, right? For demo in New York. So this is another example of these neighborhoods or sectors. And here, these are squares. So this map was much easier to draw because we needed the coordinates of this point, this point, this point, and this point, and that was enough. The other one with curves and stuff, took us, more time to calculate. Anyway, let's hide these neighborhoods. Let's hide the local coordinators. And now you can also display on the map the number of members and volunteers. Just that this is essentially 200 members and 200 volunteers. First, it's a great way to show your mayor or funders or grantors, etc., saying all the people you're helping, all these red boxes here are different members of this village. But now, the other thing I wanted to show you in the demo today is basically that now you have a way to search a person on the map. So now imagine you have Maria on the call. Actually, I don't know if we have a Maria, but yep. So I search Elda, which is my mom's name, and then we see that there is one here. This is Griselda, and then there is Nelda Robson. So the search capability just makes it much easier, from the 400 dots that we had on the map 2 seconds ago, right? Now, very quickly, if you have someone on the phone, you search for Elda, and then, you have 4 dots. So you just click and you find my mom right away. So search capability made this so much easier. The other thing that I want to, Margie, I'll get back to your question on the maps. Before I do that, I just want to make sure that within the hour I finish showing the event Zoom link for events, right? First thing is I want to go here on the admin side. If you go to settings, you go to events. Now here, there are different options you can define for your events, right? Like who can participate, all these things. And basically here you will be able to add your Zoom link, right? It's zoom.com, and then this is a random one. It's not a real one, but just for the example. But you can add the one for your village here. And then one is saved. You know what? Let me change it. Let's have this 8.7, okay? It ends in 8.7. And then we save this. Now, when we're creating an event, we're going to create an online coffee chat, and obviously this is the name of the event. You can call it whatever the name is in your village. And then this is an event that is happening today. this time, let's say that is open to all, but you can say it's only open to members, and you choose. But what is new here is that if you go down, you're not selling any tickets. The capacity is unlimited if you leave it to 0. The new thing is here. Is there an online meeting URL? So if you click on this box, poof, it's gonna pull up your default Zoom meeting link. You don't even need to remember it, just check this box. You remember you changed it, it now finishes in 8.7, so that looks good. And then we just save it. This is another improvement we did. This is event visible, but. So now that we save it and it has a Zoom link URL, now there is a button here, right? And for people, when it's the time of the meeting, they can go in, and when they click on this link, it's gonna take them to Zoom. Okay? I mean, I cannot click on it right now because we're on a Zoom meeting already.
Manuel, it's
yes.
Chris here. And will it automatically give us a Zoom link, or do we need to set something up with Zoom before and to enter into that?
No, you need to set up with Zoom already. You need to set it with Zoom first. And then once you get your Zoom link from Zoom, right? I mean, we are a paid customer for Zoom. I don't know for your village, but we always have the same URL. So if you define it in your settings, it will always pop up for your events, right? Yeah. If you have a different link for each one of your meetings on the free version or something, you can always go to each event.
I want to interject something here about security. There's a good message from someone in Village about security, which is very active. But I would not, I mean, you mentioned making sure the link is only available to people who can log on. Mm-hmm. But more so, I would be concerned about using a standard link every single time. You get a personal ID with your account, whether it's free or not free. Mm-hmm. And that if you use that over and over, it's easy enough for it to slip out of your grasp, and other people could access it theoretically, not that they want to.
Yeah, it's a good point.
My recommendation would be you have a unique, you ask for, customized link for each meeting. And I also want to say, because it may not be known, 2 things. You can get an annual account with Zoom, up to 100 people, unlimited meetings for $150. It's a good investment. And there are other options.
Yes.
WebEx is good for better security and way precedes Zoom. And there are others that might be considered if you have concerns.
Great. So I agree with everything you said, Joan. Just if I can answer, Joan, and then I'll go for the next question. But basically what I wanted to just clarify here is, first, the link that you use is different per event, right? So you can come to each event, and if what Joan is saying, well, no, for this event, we're using a different link, you can do that, right? Yes. And then save it. So you can have a link per event. You can default one in settings, which is kind of the default one, but each event can use a different one. The other thing I wanted to say is that this link is not necessarily Zoom. If you're using WebEx, you just come here and you say webex.com/URL. So it's just a button. It's basically where the button is taking the people. So that's, it's not a problem if you're using other software, and then if you're using a different URL every time. Okay.
Manuel?
Yes.
We are instituting a password on each of it. So how do we do that?
It's a great point. You know what? I would like to try, because so the password that you have is a password for the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. Because what I'm thinking, and I'd like, is it Zoom that you're using?
Yes.
Okay. Because I want to try. Maybe sometimes, well, no, I was going to say that. I don't know. Because I don't know. Well, obviously, let me see. I mean, my first thought, I don't know. I'd be happy, if you contact our support line, we'll be happy to look at that. The first thing that came to my mind is that sometimes you can add the password here on the link. And then this page is being kept private in Helpful Village, right? And it's only visible for people that are logged in. If I log out, I don't see the button.
Right.
Now,
that is an option in Zoom, that you can include the password in the link. We haven't done that, but that is an option.
Absolutely. So if you do that, right, then if you copy here the password on the link, and you copy here the link with the password, well, then that will take the people in. So that's an option. Obviously, now if you add the password here, well, then it's pretty much like changing the URL, but that's an option. So we'll be happy to double check that with you if you want.
The other
privacy,
the other privacy thing is that we instituted going into a waiting room first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I was going to say, is that I've seen that too, is that you have the possibility on Zoom to have a waiting room where basically people are not joining the meeting until an admin lets them in. So yeah, you have these different security functionalities.
Manuel, this is Margie in DC. You like Google. Google Meet is an expansion of their Google Hangouts, and Google has spent a lot of time worrying about security.
Yeah.
And their defaults, I haven't discovered quite yet which settings you can set and which you can't, but they have clamped down pretty well, and it's as easy to use as, and it's through the Google Calendar.
Yes.
That you set up the meeting and send out, but you do not have to have Gmail to use it.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
And it looks just like Zoom. It looks just like Zoom.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, there is from the security perspective, there's something that is quite interesting. I think Zoom can be secure. You know what I mean? If you don't publish your password, but they went in saying, well, but we want it by default to be very easy. And so easy that you can use it without security. And I don't think Google works that way. I think Google is a little bit more like Helpful Village, where kind of we are always, ultra careful about, oh my God, security, that can be dangerous, etc. And we, this is this is only something you can see if you're logged in, etc. So my personal inclination is I think Google would tend to be more secure because they have this, security first mindset, as Helpful Village usually does also.
It's called Google Meet.
Yeah, Google Meet. And then what I was saying is that basically what I mean is that I guess Google Meet also gives you an URL if you want to copy here on the button of the event. That will probably work there too. Okay, perfect. So that's for the new Zoom meeting button. So that's good. And then we are already past the hour. I usually don't like going past, so let me just make sure that we finish the meeting, and then I'll stay around a little bit more for questions and answers. Maybe the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is that basically what our current priorities, what we're working on is so these improvements that will come for next month on May, hopefully, and then others. But basically one thing we're going to work on is reorganizing the improvement requests. So villages have been formulating, the suggestions and improvement. Some of them we have done, but also we want to clean up the sheet, right? Like we had this ask.helpfulvillage.com where people have been putting a lot of info, but we have been launching very large modules and stuff. Now we want to stop with kind of the new modules and work more on this improvement sheet. So we'll be working on that. Maybe we'll get back to you asking questions that if you had, made an improvement request or prioritization questions, but I wanted you to know that this is a priority for us right now. We're working on an impact report, which is kind of a one-pager about what's the value of the village in a one-pager, right? Like in a summary, if you had to show that to your mayor or to a grantor or a funder, it's like how to show the impact of the village in a one-pager. There's also an autosave for email messenger. Sometimes when you use an email messenger, right, you post a message and you write it. For coronavirus, some of our villages are writing long messages, right, with resources and contact information and stuff. And then if they're writing for a long time, we were not auto-saving it, but we were waiting for the person to click the button save. But for long messages, it makes sense to have an auto-save every 5 minutes that we kind of say, or 1 minute, I don't know, but that we save it more often so that you don't lose that information. And then the last one is just a bug. For those that know it, I know Jim Ludden, I was talking with him. When you're using email messenger and you were saving a draft, we had a little glitch with the drop-down boxes that will be solved also, if not this month, next month. But this is kind of the priorities for next month. The most important thing is that we are now spending more time on the improvement requests, going through our files of things that have been asked the last few months to reorganize things. And this is what's going on next. So there is a B2B meeting next week on Wednesday at the same time. But the B2B meetings are Q&A. So there were some questions today, but on the release webinar, we're announcing new things and then, well, with discussion. The next week, we don't announce anything new, but it's mostly question and answer. But the B2B webinars is something that you need to register with B2B. So you need to either register on the website or contact Travis to register for the B2B event. And the link is not the same. You need to use the B2B link for the Zoom meeting. And then there is a release meeting exactly like this one a month from now, May 20th, and another B2B on May 27th. And then the other thing are just links. So that's kind of what we had in the meeting. As I said, I can stay around for a few minutes if there are some. I mean, we managed to have a very busy webinar still once again today. So if you have questions, I am still around. So I don't know if someone wants to jump in.
Manuel. Manuel, this is Margie. What happened about the apartment buildings and the multiple?
Yes. So perfect. So there are two things. Let me come here. Share my screen. Let me go back there. Village maps. So we're doing two things. First is, first is linked to the search button, right? So if there are 3 people, so now if you say, oh, I'm looking for Maria, that she's in, or Elda, and she's in the apartment thing, obviously here, if there are 4 people and there is only one that is named Elda, well, it's easier to find that person in the apartment building. That's one thing. The other thing is that when we have people that are staying at the same address, right? So if you said this apartment building, if the address is exact same, we will not put the mark. Oh gosh, I didn't want to click on that. We don't show the marker right here. There will be, when you zoom in, you will have 4 or 5 dots around this dot. See what I'm saying? So what we did in the beginning is like, if 4 people had the same address, they were on top of each other. So you could not only click on the one that was on the top. But now what we're doing is that we will move it slightly. If we have several people at the same address, we'll put another one here, another one here, another one here, and another one here, right? So you will see more markers. See what I mean?
So you're saying that previously they were there, they were just hidden because they were right on top of each other.
Yes. So kind of the software was writing them on top of each other, right? So when you were looking at it, you could only see one, and when you would only click on the most, the one that is on top. Now what we're doing is that instead of seeing one, when you zoom in, obviously they're very close, right? So you need to zoom in, and then when you zoom in, you will see one here, one very close, one very close, one very close. You will see 4 or 5 people around this one, or 2 people if they're.
So is the same true for a couple at the same address?
Yes, yes. So yeah, exactly. So if you have 2 people at the same address, they would show, kind of next to each other. If you have 4 people next to each other and 4 people next to each other. But I'd be interested if when we release a new version, Margie, to look at a specific example. We tried that on our demo software. But if you have a case with the apartment building or something, please get back to us on the support, and then I look at those specifics, because I wonder, if we are comparing the exact same address. Anyways, just when the release comes out, just get back to us, and I'll be happy to have a look at that apartment building where you have 5, 6 people to see how that shows. I'll be curious.
Will do. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Margie. I think there was another question from.
Yes. Yeah. Hi, Manuel. Teresa from Cheverly Village. Thank you.
Teresa.
Hi. Thank you for the updates with the associated memberships. That's going to be great for us, as you. I have a question about. We still want to get a sheet. We call it a face sheet of information every single time a volunteer accepts a service request. Yeah. And we already have those in documents. Yeah. Is there a way we could routinely attach that when a volunteer assumes a request, or do we have to have that as a 2-step process, or should I put it in the ask?
Yeah, I remember talking about this because I like also the idea of the face sheet. But can you remind me a little bit, because we could discuss that a little bit of time. How are you using it? So basically, it's like you have a volunteer and a member, and then who? Yeah. So if you have a volunteer and a member that are matched, who can see the face sheet?
Yes. So then we want the volunteer to be able to see the face sheet that we have for all our members. So on that is emergency contact information, a picture of the member, the address, and some of that is already on the map that, you know, is on the Helpful Village when they accept, but there's other stuff on there that we would like them to have with them. So as they go, that they don't keep necessarily, but they do receive while they're with the member.
Yeah. So so the face sheet, what you're telling me, that's for the volunteer, right?
Exactly. And if there's a way to, you know, to send it through documents, or, you know, I haven't quite figured out how that would work. It seems like it may be another step.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand if I need to make that request or.
Yeah. So definitely, you know, you should, you know, submit it to the, you know, ask.helpfulvillage.com. I told you that we are going over the improvement request. So maybe it was on the list already before, but we're cleaning that up because I know we have discussed about that. But basically my first thought about it is that when we go on the member directory, you know, I can click on, oh, there's my mom. Yeah, but that's the admin profile that I can see because I have admin rights. But if I'm not an admin, I can see, you know, the more like this. You know, we have the user profile that we added in January, right? That doesn't contain all the payment information and stuff like that. And then if I'm I'm looking for myself, so I can see the agenda and stuff. Anyways, I have an idea that maybe we can connect your face sheet to the fact that maybe the volunteer can see the public information of the, you know, of the member profile. So the idea is interesting. We want to have a look at that.
Okay, maybe I'll send you a copy of one that we have, and you can see what.
Exactly, a copy of the face sheet. I think that that is a good idea, and it will translate into something that looks like this, for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah, great point. And great background image, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm working hard on my background images.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, perfect. Do we have other questions on the call? We're really going beyond the hour, so I don't know if you have other questions. At the same time, you know what? Maybe unless you have a very urgent question, I would suggest that we stop now because I don't like doing very long meetings for people that, you know, don't want to stay for that long. Because we have another webinar next week, so maybe we, you know, if you have other questions, I think we should probably, you know, I'll be there next week on Wednesday. Send us your questions by email. Or on Slack, and then, you know, we'll do a selection and do that for the webinar that is taking place next Wednesday. So, you know, I'd be happy to do that. And that being said, let me see. I can stop sharing my screen because basically I think it's time for me to say bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the meeting. It was a very good one, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.